Welcome to the Couch Scouts podcast. We provide league-winning analysis, advice, and tools to help you dominate your league and build a dynasty. Scout, draft, win. Here's your host, Matt Cooper.
Welcome to the Couch Scouts podcast. I am your host, Matt Cooper. With me, as always, my co-host, Matt Rupert.
How you doing, my man?
And Matt Jackson.
What's going on, guys?
Oh, not much. Just the typical internet going out 4 minutes before we were supposed to record. So we're doing this on a hotspot right now. So to all of our listeners, I apologize in advance if we end up having any technical difficulties during the show. Jackson and Rupert will be ready to carry on without me if I get kicked out of here. But the show must go on. And on today's show, we are going to be taking a look at Jadarian Price, running back out of Notre Dame. This is the teammate, of course, of Jeremiah Love. And he measured in at 5'11", 203 pounds. At the combine, he ran a 4.49 40-yard dash. Jadarian Price was a four-star prospect coming out of high school. He was the 14th ranked running back in his recruiting class. And he spent all four of his college seasons at Notre Dame, racked up 674 yards and 11 touchdowns on 113 carries as Jeremiah Love's backup. So this is a little bit, for me, reminiscent of like Roschon Johnson backing up Bijan Robinson. And it's like, man, this is a light production profile for an NFL prospect, but you got to contextualize it knowing that he's backing up an absolute stud elite prospect. So yeah, that's kind of the background on him. He also dealt with a pretty significant injury. We don't have it on our show sheet, but I believe early in his collegiate career, he dealt with a pretty significant injury. Does that seem accurate to you, Jackson?
Yeah, that seems to be ringing a bell. I'm not sure what the injury was, but I think that's true. Yeah,
he ruptured his left Achilles tendon in June 2022, which forced him to miss his entire freshman season. So, yeah, I mean, he's, all things considered, bouncing back from, that's a pretty serious injury. And there's a lot of explosiveness on tape. So to come back from that and have some juice left in his legs is a good thing. But certainly when you've rehabbed from an injury that major, that's a notable part of the prospect profile that we should mention here before we get into the film. He also caught 6 of his 7 targets for 87 yards and 2 scores. Was a Sporting News and Sports Illustrated first team All-American, among other awards. I don't know that I've ever heard of that award, but he won it, so he got it. So good on him. But yeah, 7 targets, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's not much of a receiving profile. So we'll talk about that when we get to that part of his film. But 2 touchdowns on 7 targets is pretty good. All that being said, we're going to get into the film like we always do. If you're new to the show, we dive into these prospects. We watch 5+ games of all 22 film. We make extensive notes. We break them down trait by trait here on the show and tell you basically everything that you need to know about them from a film standpoint. And along the way, we reference some statistics. Curtis FF will be comparing Jadarian Price to the 165 other FBS running backs with at least 100 carries in 2025. So let's get into it. As always, we start with vision and patience, and we'll give you some of our proprietary grade to these. So we'll reference those along the way, and we'll explain what those grades mean if you're new to the show. So let's start with vision and patience. I'll throw it to you first, Rupert. What did you see here from Jadarian Price?
I really loved his vision and patience. I thought this was, not to bury away his standout traits. I gave him 8 for vision and patience. I thought he did such a good job of, just being patient, reading the line, flowing with it, waiting to pick his lane, and then when he did, exploding through it. Particularly like the second level, a lot of defensive manipulation, like sucking guys on the inside so that he can break it to the outside. Really beautiful second level vision to break off some nice long touchdown runs. So I thought this was just by far his best trait.
Yeah, I really like this second level vision. That paired with his elusiveness that we're going to talk about here, like he married the reading the line, seeing the cutback lanes, and then kind of doing that jump cut that he showed off all over his film. He married those things together really well. Like I said, he was able to read his blocks. I don't ever remember making a note of him taking a lane or a hold that he shouldn't have taken. So really good vision. I gave him a 7.5 for that. I thought that especially when we got to the second level, he just saw things that your average average NFL back just wasn't going to see. So really like that aspect of his game. I gave him though a 7 for patience. Rupert, you mentioned an 8. I thought it was good patience. I thought that he would sometimes have a tendency to, because he had such crazy speed and athleticism, he was quick to bounce it outside or quick just to get up the field. I didn't think this was an elite trait for him. I thought it was good by NFL standards, but I thought he relied sometimes too heavily on his speed, burst, and athleticism, and that marred sometimes a lack of patience for me.
Yeah, I also had a note that he does love to bounce it outside, but there were also plenty of examples of him making a decisive downhill cut and running between the tackles too. I really liked his ability to operate both out of a gap scheme and a zone scheme. So at Notre Dame, he had 67 rush attempts in a zone scheme and 45 in a gap scheme. So he did a lot of both of those, um, which is a good sign that he can navigate, any kind of system. And I didn't feel like there was a glaringly like he did one way better than the other necessarily. He does like he plays kind of like a zone back because he really, we'll talk about this when we get to elusiveness and quickness in a minute. He doesn't have a lot of wiggle to his game. He's very much a one cut runner. Like he's going to see the cutback lane. He's going to hit one really hard, powerful cut, and then he's going to get downhill. He's not a guy that does a lot of dancing around in the backfield, so that really lends itself well to a zone run scheme. If he lands with a team that does primarily zone, I think that would fit his skill set well. Really liked his second level vision. I thought he had a knack for seeing off script plays, for like flipping his hips. He had really fluid hips and completely reversing field, or making a really sharp cutback across traffic and just bending all the way across the formation to really like if he sees an empty backside where they're over pursuing, he just was great at identifying that and hitting it. And even we mentioned he didn't have much of a receiving profile, but one of his catches, he took a screen pass and just made this incredibly sharp cut across everybody's face, completely reversed it to the other side of the field, and ended up taking the screen pass for a house call. It was kind of a wild play, but yeah, his second level vision was good. I gave him an 8 for vision, gave him a 7 for patience. I think one of my notes was he either got a huge chunk play or he got nothing. It felt like there was very little in between, and there were some massive gaping holes opened up for him by the Notre Dame offensive line. We've got it here in our notes that the team run blocking grade was 93, 7th out of 136 FBS teams. So Notre Dame, and that definitely showed up on film. It was like, man, it's easy to look like you have really good vision when they're just consistently opening up gaping holes for you and you're able to get to the second level on half your runs. So sometimes it almost makes it hard to evaluate vision because set up so well for him on a platter, but you can't knock him for having a good O-line. So yeah, vision overall, I think we all saw that as a positive. Let's talk about elusiveness and tackle breaking. So um, he had 118.6 elusiveness rating per PFF, which I think is a really good number. He forced 32 missed tackles on just over 100 rush attempts, so lower total number of rushing attempts. So it's 28% of his carries he forced a missed tackle, which is a pretty decent number. Did you guys feel like the film backed that up? How did you see Jadarian Price in terms of elusiveness? I'll throw it to you, Jackson.
Yeah, no, I thought he had really good elusiveness. Kind of some of the same notes you alluded to a while ago, Cooper. He's definitely a one cut runner. He sticks his foot to the ground and explodes the other direction. And he does that at a really high level. I felt because he is so fast, and all these things work together, right? Like I'm talking about athleticism here, but athleticism plays towards his quickness, his elusiveness. I felt because he was moving at such a high speed, he sometimes struggled to decelerate and then reaccelerate to string moves together.
Recelerate. I love
Recelerate. Yeah, I just made up a word. He struggled to
love it.
decelerate and then reaccelerate to string together those moves. So that was why he's not like an 8 for elusiveness. I did give him a 7.5 for quickness. When he does explode through those cuts, like he's super quick laterally. He's got fluid hips. You mentioned all of that on his vision. One thing that I will note about his tackle breaking is for me, there's a difference between you're forcing missed tackles and you're actually breaking tackles. He was forcing those missed tackles at a high rate. I don't think that he was breaking tackles at necessarily a high rate. I gave him a 5 for breaking tackles. I felt like he would sometimes, even when he slid off to the side and guys would just get a chip hit on him, it still felt like he would go down easier than I feel like maybe he should have. I feel like he wasn't breaking tackles at a high rate. This just wasn't an area of his game that he was very good at, in my opinion.
Rupert, did you see it the same way?
Yeah, I agree there. I gave him a 6 for breaking tackles, and I went with that because I feel like he was able to like high step through some, but it was mainly when he was able to use his vision and kind of like change his vector and kind of get around him to the outside and kind of like high step around guys. I gave him a 7 for elusiveness. Okay, but a little bit above average, but nothing special. Again, it's that one cut, not a ton of other moves in his repertoire. And I thought he was making guys miss because of his vision. He was setting them up so well. And I gave him a 7 for quickness.
Yeah, so it's interesting when you talk elusiveness. Normally, when I think of elusiveness, I think of like make you miss in a phone booth, jukes, cuts, dead legs, spin moves. All the ways to essentially break somebody's ankles, make them miss. And I don't think Jadarian Price has very much of that in his game at all. The way that he most often made people miss was with his acceleration. And we're going to talk about speed, burst, quickness in just a minute, but that burst in short areas, it was like, the telltale sign you're scouting that somebody has really good burst is when you constantly see people diving at the air and not getting a finger on that player. And that was all over Jadarian Price's film. And I felt like he had a knack for just that little bit of a hesitation to freeze the defensive back, and then boom, and he's right by him. And yeah, so I gave him a 7 for elusiveness, which again, 6 is NFL average, 7's pretty good, 8's great. I'm not ready to go great because I didn't see that repertoire of moves for him to make people miss. But he did force missed tackles, and it was mostly with just a little hesitation move and some really good bursts. That was kind of his go-to. He just blew by people, and he had good curvy linear motion. That's a Matt Waldman term. But it's like you're not necessarily making a cut, but you're able to change your vector as you're running at full speed. And he did that really well. A lot of bend to the way that he would run. Kind of a unique. It was weird. It was like, how is he like his toes are facing forward, his eyes are facing forward, but he's like running sideways, and
It's his hips, like you talked about
it's
earlier.
really, really fluid hips. So yeah, Jadarian Price is fun to watch run the football, but not necessarily in the Bucky Irving, Emmett Johnson, even his teammate Jeremiah Love in terms of elusiveness with the wide repertoire of moves. And a guy that it kind of reminded me of from last year in that regard was Travion Henderson. Travion Henderson did not have this wide array of jukes and cuts and spins, and he really wasn't overly powerful, much of a tackle breaker from that sense either. Both Price and Henderson, like low 200 pounds. I think maybe they both were exactly 203 at the combine. I can't remember exactly what Travion's weight was, but similar in terms of like not elite power, not elite elusiveness, but just with that explosion and the good vision, finding ways to get it done. Um, I don't my grade, I'll just give a spoiler alert for Jadarian Price is not as high, not nearly as high as it was on Travion Henderson last year. I think the receiving game, which we'll talk about later, the pass protection, which weirdly Henderson struggled with as a rookie, but he was phenomenal at in college. I think Henderson was way more polished than what I saw out of Jadarian Price, but I can see some similarities in this area at least. So yeah, that was kind of how I saw the elusiveness aspect of Price's game. And I also had him at a 6 for tackle breaking, like you guys did. I had him a 7 for quickness. So, um, yeah, I mean, overall, not bad. It's not like he's a plotter or can't change directions at all. Just more that powerful one cut than a guy that's going to string a bunch of moves together. So, um, before we get to the second half of the show here, I do want to take a quick break and shout out the great resources we have available to you at couchscouts.com. It is a treasure trove, I think, of knowledge. And I say that because we put hundreds of hours of research into the stuff that we put out there so that you don't have to do it. We enjoy this. If not everybody enjoys sitting there for 60 plus prospects, watching 5 games of film on each one and making all the notes and all that. But we love it. And so we do it for you guys. And um, I think it's the ultimate. We put out a rookie guide where we're going to have in-depth scouting profiles for 60 plus prospects, probably 70 plus, but don't want to overpromise before all is said and done. We are going to have rankings, numerical film grades for all these different attributes, um, it, ideal team landing spots. I mean, it's everything that you need to know for dominating your rookie draft, and then we'll update that thing post draft, accounting for what happens in terms of draft capital, landing spot, if guys move up or down our rankings, all that kind of stuff. So definitely check out couchscouts.com. And the rookie guide is just the tip of the iceberg. We got so many more resources, but check it out. $60 a year, $5 a month. I think it's worth every penny. So couchscouts.com. And with that being said, let's jump into the second half of the show here. And we're going to be talking physicality, contact balance, power, pad level, um, just generally the power elements to a running back. And I'll throw it to you first, Rupert. What did you see here from Jadarian Price?
It was definitely a bit of a mixed bag. Um, for physicality and power, I gave him below average, 5.5. I thought his pad level was pretty good, and when he was able to get like his pads down, I felt like he could kind of bounce off of it and stay on his feet, get some extra yards. So I gave him a 7 for contact balance, 7 for pad level. It's definitely an area where I don't, see this translating too much. There's a lot of multiple notes where he's kind of getting decked by defenders. So, it's definitely not going to be a power back or a red zone, um, threat to vulture touchdowns. So he's definitely going to have to make his fantasy impact a different way in my mind at the next level.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I would agree it was a mixed bag, but I would, at least when I was watching him, I would argue it leans towards worse than it does better, at least in my mind. Like I gave him a 7 for contact balance. I thought he was able to keep his feet. And, whenever he did do those jump cuts, I saw several examples of guys kind of swiping at his legs or swiping in his arms, and he would keep his feet moving. But for me, just some of the other aspects of that just weren't great for me. I gave him a 5 for physicality and power. I think that far too often he was tackled super easily for me, just not a lot of power to his game there. And I gave him a 6 for pad level. And for me, that felt like it was being generous. Like I felt like I maybe could have gone a little lower on pad level. I think that at times he would get down low, but for me, he felt like more an upright runner, at least when I was watching and whenever he was running.
Yeah, so Rupert, you said you gave him a 7 for pad level, and Jackson, you were at a 6. I was at a 4 for pad level. I did not think his pad level was good at all. I thought he was a very upright runner. And 203 pounds and you're an upright runner, like that's a problem in terms of me. So I had him at a 5, and mostly the only reason that I had him at a 5 for power was because I thought when he got to the second level and he had a head of steam, he could drive some guys backwards, converting speed to power in that way. But I had a note that he definitely preferred to run away from people than through people. I did not think that he relished contact at all. Um, I thought he was kind of, for a running back, a little bit contact averse for my taste. I did have him at a 7 balance. A lot of the same things that you noted there, Jackson, in terms of um, running through arm tackles a little bit, and again, that burst, he gets ahead of steam, and all you can get is a hand on him. He can run through that. He can high step over some of those people that are trying to dive at his legs. Um, but yeah, even a 7 for contact balance honestly felt generous for me. There were some really good examples and a lot of really not good examples of him just going down really easy, like you guys noted. So, yeah, overall power, not a strength for me. I would go as far as to categorize it as a weakness. Um, but let's talk about the third down skill set, because this is, I think, crucial for a guy who's 203 pounds. He's not a power back, like we just mentioned, and he's more of a change of pace, explosive. Um, you need to be able to catch passes if that's your archetype, and this is a concerning thing for me here. So, um, when we get into the receiving profile via PFF, he had a 66.9 receiving grade, which is middle of the road. 1.23 yards per route run. It's an okay number, but on a super tiny sample size, right? He only had 3 receptions past the line of scrimmage in his entire college career. 3 receptions past the line of scrimmage in his entire college career. Now, I know he played with Jeremiah Love, and I know Jeremiah Love, even we said that he was underutilized as a receiver, and he was really, really good at it. Um, but that's still like, dude, 7 targets this season. That's not good. It's just not good. So, of course, sometimes it's like just because he didn't get asked to do it doesn't mean that he can't do it. Kenneth Walker had 13 receptions for his entire college career. By the way, hasn't been good at that in the NFL. It's held him back. That's why Charbonnet was on the field so much, and it was in passing down situations that Charbonnet was always on the field. Um, I also didn't think Jadarian Price was really strong as a pass protector either. And the papers back that up. He had a 26.0 pass block grade, which is bad. That's really 26 out of 100. That's failed test. So, yeah, this is a real concern for a guy who's undersized, uh, not much production profile, and doesn't have really much of a third down skill set to speak of. My grade for him, I gave him 6 for receiving, which feels really generous to say FL average, but again, he did have 2 touchdowns on those 7 targets. So, like, once he got the ball in his hands, he was really dangerous after the catch. But yeah, I just can't, with that production profile, I can't get behind giving him any higher than a 7, and that feels really generous. And then my pass pro was a 5, which honestly also feels generous. Like, I could go down to a 4 pretty easily there. So, did you guys see this the same? I did not think this was a strength for all.
Absolutely agree. I gave him a 4 for pass protection, so I went even lower there. For receiving, I went 5 as, you know, he passable because, like you said, when he does get the ball, it's like, oh my gosh, he gets, anytime you throw it to him out the backfield, he has a chance to take it to the house. So, but we just didn't see it enough, so I just couldn't give him NFL average for it. But if it happens and he starts getting used as a receiving weapon, like I wouldn't be surprised because like he did what kind of natural catching it the handful of
Yeah,
times
his
that we
hands
saw it
look
on tape.
terrible.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if he can actually be used that way, but definitely not in pass pro. That was pretty rough.
Yeah, I gave him a 6 for receiving. Not a lot of route sophistication there either. He was just kind of going out into the field for screens or,
Mm,
just I mean, there wasn't any route running going on with his receiving game,
yeah.
but I did give him a 6 because like you did see those flashes, like when he got the ball in his hands and he would one cut and go up the field. Like I see potential there. So this isn't something where like I wouldn't be surprised if like he got utilized more at the NFL level. Like that wouldn't shock me too much. I'm with Rupert though. I did go down to a 4 on pass block. Like he's not a good pass blocker. Too many instances of me just like misidentifying blitzing defensive ends and linebackers for me to say
Mhm.
that it was acceptable.
Yeah, so when we put this whole profile together, this to me, because I mean, I literally recently did a real rookie draft, not a mock, a real rookie draft where we drafted before the NFL draft. We call it a Nostradamus draft. So the first two rounds are before the NFL draft, and then rounds 3 through 5 are after. And it's really an interesting, like it's all content creators. It's a Dynasty Nerds league, and so all of us are on staff with Dynasty Nerds, and it's kind of a stand behind your process and make your picks just based on your scouting without having the draft info. And it's interesting, but Jadarian Price went first round in that league, um, first round of that rookie draft, and that's not too far off where I'm seeing him. Like late first, early second is where I've seen him consistently go in mock drafts, even from NFL circles. Like I hear that the NFL views him as RB2 behind Jeremiah Love, which I I don't know how true that is. I'm just repeating what I've heard from NFL circles. Um, it seems like he could be a pretty high day 2 pick, and I'm just gonna say I'm personally not there on any of that. Like, that price is too rich for me. You're looking at a guy who, yes, he put up 6 yards a carry, and he broke off a lot of big chunk runs, but he also had, like, the 6th best offensive line for run blocking in the nation and was having these huge holes opened up for him. I didn't see, like, really high level elusiveness. I didn't see really high level tackle breaking, power, contact balance. Like there's not a trait that I can hang my hat on and say he's elite at it, except for burst. I have him at a 9 for burst because he left guys diving on the ground all the time. But again, that's when the offensive line opens it up enough for him to get to the second level, and he's, now he can run past people. But if there's guys meeting him in the backfield, he's not breaking the tackle, and I don't think he's making the guy miss either. And so you take away the huge offensive line advantage that Notre Dame had over their level of competition, and you put him on an NFL team. Um, I have questions about how that translates. And yeah, when you're 203 pounds, you don't have the receiving skill set. You can't be in on obvious passing downs because you can't pass protect. You're not making people miss. You're not breaking a ton of tackles. Like that's drawing up a lot of flags for me. And I don't hate him. I'm at a 68.85 is my recliner rating for him, which is right in the range of backup with starter upside. Like I could maybe see him one day developing into a starter in the NFL. But like coming in rookie year, I don't even think he's good enough to be a flex option. And for a first round rookie pick price, like that's rich for my blood. And I think 6 and 5 was generous on the receiving. Like if I go down to a 5 and a 4, like you had, Rupert, my grade goes down even lower to a 67.65. So I have him very clearly behind Mike Washington Jr., Jonah Coleman, Emmett Johnson. I have him just below Le'Veon Moss in my film grade. Although I would take him over Moss because of the projected draft capital, because Moss has the injury history, all that kind of stuff. And my sleeper, who we talked about on the bonus show, and I'm not going to give it away, but there's a sleeper running back that nobody's talking about that I have graded a good bit higher than Jadarian Price as well. So as far as like pure recliner rating, he is 7th. He's my 7th highest running back. So I think I'm gonna be out on him at cost.
I agree. Yeah, I was kind of shocked to hear how high he's going. Yeah, to me, he's nowhere close to RB2. So I feel comfortable with this rating because I could see him developing, because I think he does have really good vision and patience. So if he goes to a good offensive line that utilizes a zone running scheme, I think he could find some success there. Not something I'm going to bank on happening, especially with a late first round or early second round rookie pick.
Yeah, no, I'm with y'all. I don't even have him in my top 5 running backs right now. He is 7, just like for you, Cooper. I've got him at RB7 in a weaker, not weak, but weaker running back class. It's a strong wide receiver class. And you've got some tight ends that we like. So, I mean, if he's going round 1 in rookie drafts, like, there's not a shot that I'm walking away with a share of Jadarion Price.
Yeah, I mean, his speed. I think I accidentally skipped over that section when I was going through the show notes here. So that's why I mentioned I had him at a 9 for burst and 8 for speed. So you pair that with his vision, that's pretty good. But again, he's 203 pounds. So like if he's 215, 220, and he's that fast and he has good vision, now we can overlook maybe not being the most receiver or third down. But it's like when you're that small and you're not that elusive, I don't know, it's just tough. So yeah, we're not out here trying to hate on Jadarian Price. I actually thought his film was fun to watch because again, the burst is crazy and he's leaving guys diving at his heels constantly. And the fluid hips, like he is fun to watch. I just don't know how much it translates. So we're avoiding him. We would probably recommend at cost that you avoid him too. I'll be really interested to see what happens with the NFL draft. Does he actually go as high um, as some of the buzz would indicate that he might? Like, is he a second round NFL draft pick, or is he one of those guys that he falls to day 3 and everybody's going, "What happened to Jadarian Price?" And we're like, yeah, that's where he should have gone all along. So, well, I'm going to be interested to see what happens there because sometimes, like we were kind of like that with Braylon Allen and then even like Caleb Johnson falling to round 3. We were like, yeah, round 3 is a little higher than and people are going, what? He fell all the way to round 3? We're like, yeah, that was too high. So, I like Jadarian Price more than the guys I just mentioned, by the way. Like, I like him more than I liked Braylon Allen. I like him more than I liked Caleb Johnson. Just not there.
Caleb Johnson was alive there for about 5 seconds yesterday. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, hopefully you sold him in the hour between when they moved on from Kenneth Gainwell and when they added who did they add? Rico Dowdle.
Rico Dowdle,
so,
yeah.
You had about an hour sell window. Hopefully you took advantage. But yeah, that's going to do it for the show this week. Check out the link in our show notes for a free community Discord. We have no strings attached with that. We just want to get to know the people that listen to our show. Just had a guy today join that said he's been listening to the podcast for a while and he wanted to come check out the vibes. So may his tribe increase. Come hang in with us. It's a fun group. And yeah, so that link will be in the show notes. Leave us a review on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. If you found value from the show, it helps other people find it. And love you guys. Hope you all have a blessed week. We'll see you next week.